Hi, people. In this podcast, it's me that's doing the introductions. Mark's got something he wants to get off his chest. Let's see what it is. Over to Mark.
Well, other people. Some of you may know that I am a English as a foreign language teacher, mainly based in Brazil. I've been seeing a debate that's been bubbling for the past couple of years amongst EFL, English foreign language teachers. About 3 years ago, a certain podcaster, she had a podcast about English language. I won't mention it because the poor girl got quite distressed over this. But she did comment about certain accents and the way you pronounce certain words might make you sound unprofessional. Now, I saw the original video. Didn't think anything of it at the time, but I thought it was actually quite funny. It was evidently she was a bit tongue-in-cheek with it. And she said, yeah, certain accents make you sound unprofessional, don't sound, if you like, executive enough, etc. Yeah, this is referring probably to English people. And I think one of the accents was actually mine. I mean, many years ago, I actually had a boss of mine, I was in middle management sort of thing, speak to me about my Cockney accent. Anyone that knows me will know I don't speak with a Cockney accent. It's an estuary accent. Very subtle difference. I do sound like other members of my family who came from London. Obviously, my accent has changed somewhat because I do English teaching. And when you podcast, yes, you are conscious of speaking with a rhythmic accent or way of speaking. I can speak with a received pronunciation, RP, a bit like the royal family. I just choose not to do it. I'm not even going to do it here. Now, my question is, does it actually hinder people who don't necessarily speak English correctly? Is it nice to hear English spoken correctly, or are we accepting of people who may not have the correct accent? Certainly, I've never found it a hindrance by my boss having a bit of a dig at me, which I didn't really care too much about, I must admit. But I found it all quite funny. And again, I found this video funny. It's the fact that the other part of the extension is, if you like, she was targeting me, someone like me. I didn't get offended. I laughed at it. I may have even commented on it on the comments. I can't remember. But then I see an academic in Australia, criticize her. And then this got into somehow it got into the Daily Mail as well. The poor girl was being attacked. Okay. She had a big following of English as foreign language students who liked her content, who did find her amusing, who understood it. I understood where she was coming from as well about pronouncing words correctly. And yeah, if you like, not to overemphasize being guttural, I think was one of the points she was making. Like I said, I speak the way that one of the people that she was criticizing, in inverted commas. I found it funny. So why wasn't I offended? And this academic who said he had 3,000 other people support him on his following, offended and made a big thing about it and all but destroyed this girl who almost had a breakdown over it. Closed her channel. She's now set up another one. Yeah, I mean, don't let people kick you down. I think the question I'm asking, there's two questions here. Does accent really, really matter, given that we speak two different accents, Steve? And what rights do other people have to criticize someone's opinion? That on the face of it doesn't matter. Yeah, People can choose to listen or not listen to this person's content. It's obviously not a totally official educational video. And the whole thing was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke to start with. Over to you, Steve.
Well, I think it all comes down to a point of view.
Mm.
You know, as long as the words that we are saying are being understood by who's listening to you, that's the main thing. A great example of this would be Michelle Dewsbury on GB News, where she's got a strong Hull accent. It's really charming.
Yeah.
Listening to speak, I love to hear the accent. One of the most interesting accents I heard in coming out of the UK the last time I was there was an accent from Lancaster. Which was a really, this lady was speaking with a Lancastrian accent, and it was absolute poetry to my ears. But then I'm English.
Yeah.
But then I'm English. When you talk about business English, then perhaps there might need to be a bit of a norm. If you listen to the vast majority of the MPs in Parliament, most of them have got the same accent, the same way to pronounce, the same use of the language, if you like, which to me, is a bit of an overkill on their part. I've rubbed shoulders with TEFL teachers a lot because I travelled around a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
And one of the most interesting characters was a guy from Northern Ireland. And he had a really strong Northern Irish accent.
Yeah.
But he was a teacher. And you could imagine, this was in Spain, it was in Barcelona in Spain. And you can imagine his students all speaking with this really broad Northern Irish brogue, because I imagine that your students would listen to your pronunciation and would try and pronounce the words that you're saying as they hear them.
Yeah, I do hear it come back to me sometimes, and then I refer it, and I do make the joke. Please don't speak like me, because it will hinder you. But I joke about it. But yes, you can hear it come back. Of course, when I speak Portuguese, I'm going to probably reflect others around me. Although I do seem to be going in my own direction a bit sometimes. But it's yes, of course, we're going to reflect. We're going to watch the movement, and we're going to listen and mimic. And
What? Go on.
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course. I mean, I've still, for an English teacher, probably still got a very, very strong Southern English, Southeastern English accent. I don't want to lose it because it's identity for me. And I say it helps the students when they go to London, they hear me. I'm not some from the Cambridge or Oxford room doing a video. I keep it real, as it were, and this will help.
The danger of that is what you just said, and I would be very careful about saying it in the future.
Yeah,
is you said that when my students go to London, it's like you're almost saying if they don't go to London, go somewhere else, they won't understand what anybody's saying, which is not the case.
No, I agree.
Not the case.
Yeah.
Nobody who's learning a foreign language, or very few people, have got the ear to copy exactly what they hear when somebody's speaking to them. When I speak Portuguese, and I speak Portuguese well.
Yeah, I know that.
In my head, I think that my pronunciation in Portuguese, in my head, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah,
but I just need to say 2 words, and somebody says, "Where are you from?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
the fact that they can't. The fact that I don't speak Portuguese with an English accent
Yeah.
Because people say, you know, are you Argentine? Are you Italian? They,
Yeah.
you know, they don't expect me to be English.
Yeah. It,
And so, you know, we're never going to learn an exact copy of what the English teacher is giving us.
well, of course. Yeah.
I've heard one, perhaps two examples of people who speak English and you would never believe they weren't English.
Mm,
But that, of all my times I've traveled throughout all the years,
mm.
you know, I've only ever heard one, maybe two, who you know, you can tell when a Brazilian's learnt American English, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, but you can't pinpoint it to a specific place. And I think it's the same with anybody learning any language from any country.
Mm.
People are going to know that you aren't from that country as long as they understand what you're saying and what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing.
Oh, absolutely. As I say to my students, it's communication. Like you said, you opened up with this, and I always make that clear. Some of them get upset when, yeah, it's not perfect. I wish I could speak like you, teacher. And I'll say, you never will, any more than I'm going to speak Portuguese like them. Yeah. It is a, I mean, also, I mean, yeah, language is also cultural. When we're teaching a language, I do try and impart some of what I would consider, well, hopefully, is British culture, English culture, British culture, my own regional culture. It's, I mean, this is one of the things of having what we term native language teacher. If I want to learn Portuguese, I would prefer to learn with somebody that speaks Portuguese as their first language. There is a movement about English language teachers, and I know people frustrated of people who probably have got a good standard of English, who are non-English, who are teaching English, and I don't decry them. The effort they have put into learning is excellent. There are certain things they may not always understand, some annotations, sometimes the way that, again, humor. It's almost getting to a point where we only want the 850 words in the English language, and that is going to be the global language. That was set up. I'm trying to remember who did that, but yeah. So it is a
that would be that would be business English, wouldn't it?
Sort of,
Business
yeah. I mean, people use the term business English. If I've been in business English, I've been in lessons. I've been in meetings in business where I wouldn't say it's particularly business English, but things got resolved. But I was there with non-English speakers who, yes, admittedly, did get a bit lost, and I did explain things to them before I was an English teacher. I mean, okay, I'm married to a non-native English speaker. She otherwise speaks very, very good English, but there are going to be times when she does get confused. Yeah.
And she's still got a Brazilian accent.
Oh yeah, absolutely, very Brazilian. My family actually quite like it when she says London. Every syllable is pronounced. It's lovely to hear it. Sometimes, yes, even my students, I get a bit engrossed with their pronunciation. I'm thinking, yeah, getting back to what this girl said, I know I should be correcting them, but sometimes I think it's so wonderful the way they say it. And I do say, I have said to students, I'm very sorry to have to correct you. I love the way you say it, but it does show, yeah, that if you like, it's probably getting to this. It's not totally professional. Yeah.
No,
it's very disarming for the people. You know, it would take the focus away a little bit. And it's always going to be a question. But yeah, I just thought it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
When I was a lot younger,
Yeah.
I think I was about 20 years old and still a rutting stag.
Yeah.
I had to chuckle at the French girl.
Yeah.
Who's speaking English, and she mispronounced a word, which to me, you know, I mean, that was such a aphrodisiac, if you
Yeah.
like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
You know, it's somebody I liked, and
Yeah.
she used a French accent to say an English word and
Mm.
mispronounced it totally, and that to me that just made her more attractive than what she
Yeah.
was.
Oh
But that's something else. I'm opening my Pandora's box of past of
yeah.
past
Okay.
fashion.
Yeah.
And
Right, right.
I don't think a podcast here is an adequate place to do that.
Maybe we'll have an after dark podcast one day or something. But yeah. yeah.
Confession.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's cultural and everything. But I think this girl was having a dig at more English people than anything else, and it was funny. I mean, she spoke like what I would say a Sloan. Okay. Um, to me, she wasn't being deliberately offensive. The whole thing was quite funny. As I said, I listened to it and I didn't feel offended, and it was targeting me. So my question is again, why would somebody who's sitting in Australia, who's now commenting about British culture, English culture, then sets out to destroy what is part of a girl's career? And that to me is malicious.
Because,
Yeah,
like I said, everybody has a point of view.
yeah,
And his point of view was perhaps different than your point of view, different
yeah,
to her point of view.
mm,
You know, but why would anybody go after an English teacher
yeah,
or a native English speaking English teacher?
mm,
You have to just use a logic that, you know, if you've got if you've got a problem with your sink,
mm,
you don't call a mechanic.
yeah,
You, you call a plumber.
yeah,
And so, you know, the logic thing is, and they are available. That if you
mm,
want to learn English,
mm,
you you try and find somebody who's native English, of course.
mm, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I have every respect for English, foreign English speaking people.
Yeah,
Absolute respect.
and
Um,
and there are I'm sure there are more Brazilian English teachers than there are English teachers
mm,
in Brazil,
yeah,
and
I mean, we,
the market's open for everybody.
yeah, that's it. I mean, sometimes it's a good to start maybe with a non-native to get that start, um, or somebody that's gone through your shared experience of beginning to learn the foreign language. Um, I mean, I sort of my wife struggled. I mean, and yeah, I felt a struggle sometimes. I helped her as much as I could. Um, Given I wasn't a teacher, I'm a patient person. And even today, she says, "What does that mean?" And then even now, sometimes I'll come out with a phrase or an expression. And she says, "It's established." And she said, "Please speak English," you know, which is quite amusing. She says as a joke. And then I'll say, or I might say another word, and she just goes, "Ridiculous language."